All right, let's dive right in. Today we're going to unpack a really powerful and, honestly, a deeply personal letter from Pope Francis called Desiderio Desideravi. It's all about the very heart of Christian worship, the liturgy, and why he thinks it's so absolutely fundamental to the life of the Church. So let's explore what this actually means for us right now.
So where does that title come from? Well, it's pulled straight from these words of Jesus at the Last Supper, and Francis uses this quote to frame the entire conversation. What he's getting at here is that Christian worship isn't, first and foremost an obligation we have. It's a response to God's burning desire to be with us. It's an invitation to a meal that he has so earnestly prepared.
To really get what he's saying, we're going to break this down into 5 main ideas. We'll start with why he wrote this letter in the first place, and then we'll look at a pretty dangerous temptation he warns us about. After that, we'll discover his powerful solution, learn the practical art of celebrating, and see how it all leads back to this incredible sense of wonder.
So first up, the Pope's earnest desire. Why did he feel the need to write this letter to the whole Church right now? Well, his goal is pretty simple, but also super deep. He wants to help all of us rediscover the beauty and the truth of the Christian celebration, to get past all the surface-level arguments and down to the very core of what it means to worship.
And right here is the foundation for his entire argument. He says the world might not even know it yet, but everyone is invited to this divine supper. This isn't some exclusive club. It is a universal invitation, and it's driven by God's infinite desire for us. You see, our first move isn't toward God. His is always toward us.
But if the invitation is for everyone, what's getting in the way? Pope Francis points to a central problem he calls spiritual worldliness. He sees it as a really dangerous temptation, something that can poison the life of the Church from the inside. And he gets specific about 2 forms this poison takes.
Okay, so on one hand, you've got this modern Gnosticism. This is a kind of subjectivism that traps faith inside our own heads, our own feelings. It becomes all about my personal take on things. Then on the other hand, there's Neo-Pelagianism. This is the idea that we can basically earn our own salvation through our own efforts. And this leads to a kind of elitism where we're busy inspecting other people instead of just opening the door to grace.
And let's be super clear here, this isn't just some dusty old theological debate. Francis is adamant that these warped versions of Christianity are serious threats. They completely undermine the idea of a gifted salvation and a shared faith, and they lead to all this division and individualism instead of unity.
So, if those are the poisons, what's the antidote? For Pope Francis, the answer is crystal clear: the liturgy. He says it's the most effective remedy because it pulls us out of ourselves and into a real objective encounter with God.
Now, this definition is so important. The Pope really emphasizes that the liturgy isn't just a sacred play or a memorial service for something that happened a long time ago. It is the today of salvation. It's the guaranteed place where the saving power of Jesus' life, death, and resurrection reaches us right here, right now.
And I mean, just listen to how high he puts the stakes here. He says it this starkly: Christian faith is not about an idea, or a philosophy, or a moral code. It is, fundamentally, an encounter with a living person, Jesus Christ. And if that encounter isn't happening, he argues, then faith doesn't really exist.
And you can see, this is how God has always chosen to meet us, through concrete, tangible stuff. It starts with the Incarnation, where the Word literally became flesh. It continues through the Last Supper and the cross, gets supercharged by the Holy Spirit at Pentecost. And that same encounter continues for us today in the physical signs of the sacraments.
Okay, so this focus on tangible signs brings us to a really practical question. If the liturgy is this real encounter, how do we actually, access it? Well, the answer lies in learning the art of celebrating, which is really about learning to see and engage with reality in a totally new way.
The Pope literally asks this question himself, and it's a challenge for every single one of us. Because it's one thing to know what the liturgy is, right? But it's a whole other thing to know how to really fully participate in it.
And here's the big roadblock he points out. The liturgy speaks through symbols: water, oil, bread, gestures. But he argues that modern people have become kind of illiterate. We can't read the symbolic language anymore. We're so used to abstract ideas that we struggle with actions that actually contain and express a reality right in front of us.
So how does this whole thing work? How does it actually shape us? Well, it's a process. It all starts with God's invitation. Then we encounter Christ through all those signs and symbols.
We respond by participating with our whole selves, our bodies, our voices. And the result? We are slowly transformed into what we celebrate. We become, as one saint put it, that which we eat.
So this art of celebrating, or ars celebrandi, it basically means that every little thing matters. And not in a fussy rule-following way, but with a deep sense of care for every element. The way we shape the space, the rhythm of time, the meaning of our gestures, the power of words and song, and yes, even the intentional use of silence. Each one is a doorway to this divine encounter.
So where is all of this headed? What's the ultimate goal? It's all meant to lead us to one final destination: rediscovering wonder. The Pope desperately wants to move the conversation about the liturgy away from arguments and fighting and back to a place of just profound amazement. And this is maybe the most important takeaway of all. The art of celebrating isn't about creating a perfect performance or just checking off a list of rules. It's about being truly, utterly astonished by the reality that God's entire plan of salvation is made present for us, right here and now. The beauty, the care, it's all in service of that astounding fact.
Pope Francis pulls out this incredible quote from St. Irenaeus to really drive the point home. The liturgy is where we see God, and because of that, it's where we become most fully alive. Our participation isn't just for God's sake, it's for ours. It's literally how we become who we were created to be. So, at the end of the day, this is his heartfelt plea. He urges everyone to just abandon the arguments, abandon the divisions that so often pop up around the celebration. And instead, he calls us to just listen together, to protect our communion, and to be united in our shared sense of wonder. And he leaves us with this final thought from his namesake, St. Francis of Assisi. It's a call to just stop and contemplate the incredible humility of a God who makes himself present under the simple form of bread and wine. And that's the real question he leaves us with. When you're faced with that kind of reality, can you do anything other than pour out your heart in total amazement?